Hello. Who are you? Doesn't matter. Welcome. You're safe with me. I'll be right here, nice and close, so I can speak without alerting the others. Let me tell you about Warhammer 40k and how I think that it presents us with ideas of what I call unhuman becomings. Fair warning, these thoughts are about as fully fermented as a day-old sourdough starter. They might rise into something interesting, or they might just collapse into a philosophical puddle. But hey, even half-baked ideas can be food for thought, right? So let's dive into this ontological mosh pit and see what kind of existential bruises we come out with. Warhammer 40k isn't merely a game, it's an ontological provocation. It confronts us with a universe so fundamentally alien that it exposes the anthropocentric bias underlying our most basic philosophical assumptions. Consider how we conceptualize existence. From Parmenides' unchanging what is to Heideggerian Dasein, Western philosophy has predominantly viewed being through a human lens. Even when we attempt to transcend this perspective as an object-oriented ontology, we often fall back on analogies rooted in human experience. Warhammer 40k shatters this paradigm. It presents us with modes of existence that defy categorization within our traditional ontological frameworks. The warp, for instance, isn't simply a fantastical realm. It's a direct challenge to the Kantian notion of space and time as a priori intuitions. It suggests a reality where the very fabric of existence is mutable, responsive to psychic energies and collective beliefs. This universe forces us to confront a troubling question. What if our entire philosophical tradition is built on a foundation of human exceptionalism that simply doesn't hold in a broader cosmic context? What if being itself is far more fluid, more interconnected, and more alien than we've ever imagined? To grapple with these questions, we need a new conceptual framework. I propose the notion of unhuman becomings, modes of existence that transcend not just human understanding, but human categories of thought altogether. This isn't about post-human futures or transhuman enhancements. It's about recognizing forms of being so fundamentally different from our own that they require us to rethink the very basis of ontology. In the next few minutes, we'll explore how Warhammer 40k systematically dismantles four of our most cherished ontological assumptions. The fixed nature of space. We'll see how the warp and the webway challenge our Euclidean and Newtonian conceptions of space as an absolute, unchanging backdrop. The linearity of time, through warp travel, and the timeless existence of certain entities. We'll question our understanding of temporal progression and causality. The individuality of consciousness, hive minds, and psychic phenomena will force us to reconsider the boundaries of self and the nature of cognition. The divide between mind and matter. We'll examine how psychic powers and certain technologies in the 40k universe blur the line between the mental and the physical. By dismantling these assumptions, Warhammer 40k compels us to envision a reality beyond the limits of human comprehension, opening new avenues for ontological inquiry that could reshape our understanding of existence itself. Let's begin our ontological demolition with the concept of space. In our everyday experience, space seems fixed, measurable, and obedient to the laws of physics. It's the stage upon which the drama of existence unfolds. But in the grim darkness of the far future, space itself becomes a player in that drama, and it's not reading from the Euclidean script. The warp, that hellish dimension of chaos, isn't just a convenient plot device for faster-than-light travel. It's a fundamental challenge to our conception of space itself. In the warp, space isn't just curved, it's shattered, folded, and possibly having an existential crisis of its own. This isn't merely non-Euclidean geometry. It's a space where geometry itself becomes meaningless. The warp suggests a reality where location is determined not by coordinates, but by psychic resonances and emotional intensities. It's as if the universe decided that mood swings were a more reliable navigational tool than GPS. The implications are profound. If space can be warped by consciousness, then the Cartesian division between res cogitans and res extensa, thinking substance and extended substance, collapses. The warp suggests a reality where thought and extension are fundamentally intertwined, where the mental and the physical are merely aspects of a deeper, more fluid form of existence. But why stop at fluid space when we can have quantum space? Enter the Necrons, those delightful ancient robotic beings who treat quantum mechanics like a playground. Their technology, particularly their Eternity Gates, operates on principles of quantum superposition that make Schrodinger's cat look like a simple parlor trick. In quantum physics, superposition suggests that a particle can exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed. The Necrons take this principle and apply it to macroscopic objects, including themselves. They don't just move through space, they exist in multiple spaces simultaneously. This isn't just science fiction hand-waving, it's a direct challenge to our understanding of spatial existence. If something can exist in multiple locations simultaneously, can we really talk about spatial existence in the same way? The Necrons force us to consider a form of being that transcends our limited concept of spatial location, suggesting that there might be a question without a fixed answer. Now, let's push this concept to its logical extreme, omnipresence. The Tyranid hive mind and the Orc's psychic gestalt field present us with forms of consciousness that aren't located in space, they permeate it. Consider the Tyranid hive mind, a consciousness that spans countless bodies across vast distances of space. It's not a centralized intelligence sending orders to distant bodies. Rather, it's a distributed consciousness where every Tyranid organism is simultaneously an individual entity and a part of the greater whole. The Orc gestalt field takes this a step further. It's a psychic presence created by the collective belief of all orcs. This field doesn't just influence reality, it shapes it. Orc technology works because orcs believe it should work. It's as if reality itself has thrown up its hands and said, "Fine, have it your way." These concepts challenge our notion of self as spatially bounded. We typically think of ourselves as existing here, in this specific body. But what if here is everywhere? What if the self isn't confined to a single point in space, but is spread across the cosmos? In dismantling our concept of fixed space, Warhammer 40k doesn't just offer us cool sci-fi concepts. It presents a radical reimagining of spatial existence. It suggests that being isn't about occupying a specific location, but about transcending location altogether. In the grim darkness of the far future, existence isn't here or there. It's everywhere and nowhere, all at once. And if that makes your head spin, well, welcome to the ontological mosh pit of Warhammer 40k. The concept of time in Warhammer 40k doesn't merely bend our understanding, it shatters it entirely, compelling us to reconstruct our ontological framework from the ground up. The warp's temporal distortions go beyond simple time dilation. They present us with a fundamental challenge to the Kantian notion of time as an a priori intuition. In the Immaterium, time isn't just relative, it's subjective to the point of dissolution. It's as if the universe decided that Einstein's relativistic clock was too predictable and opted for a cosmic mood ring instead. This subjectivity of time bears a striking resemblance to Husserl's phenomenology of internal time consciousness, but takes it to an extreme. Husserl proposed that our experience of time is a construct of consciousness. The warp literalizes this, making psychic and emotional states the determinants of temporal flow. Consider the implications for causality. If time in the warp is determined by consciousness, then effect can precede cause, rendering our entire conception of causal relationships obsolete. This isn't merely a causal in the quantum sense, but anti-causal, a direct refutation of Hume's necessary connection between cause and effect. Furthermore, the warp's temporal inconsistencies challenge McTaggart's A and B theories of time. Neither tensed nor tenseless propositions adequately capture a reality where past, present, and future are not just coexistent, as in the B theory, but actively interchangeable and manipulable. The role of prophecy in 40k, particularly through entities like the Emperor and Eldar Farseers, presents a unique ontological problem. Unlike classical notions of prophecy, which assume a fixed future, 40k presents us with mutable futures that paradoxically become more uncertain the more one attempts to foresee them. This bears a striking resemblance to Heidegger's concept of thrownness, Geworfenheit, and projection, Entwurf, where being is always already thrown into a world of possibilities it must navigate. However, 40k radicalizes this by making the very act of navigating these possibilities the thing that generates them. The Emperor's foresight, for instance, doesn't just see potential futures, it creates them. This suggests a form of temporal ontology where the future isn't simply unknown, but actively indeterminate until observed, akin to a macro-scale version of quantum superposition applied to time itself. The Necrons present us with perhaps the most profound temporal paradox. Their state of living death places them outside of time as we understand it, yet they still interact with the temporal universe. It's as if they found a way to have their temporal cake and eat it too, across all of eternity. This timeless existence challenges Heidegger's concept of being towards death. The Necrons have already experienced death, yet continue to exist. They are, in a sense, post-Dasein entities, forcing us to consider a mode of being that is neither authentic nor inauthentic in Heideggerian terms, but something altogether alien. Moreover, the Necron's ability to step sideways through time suggests a form of temporal navigation that goes beyond mere time travel. It implies a perspective of time as a dimension to be traversed at will, similar to how we move through space. This concept aligns with, but radically extends, the block universe theory in physics. The biotransference process that created the Necrons also raises questions about the relationship between consciousness, embodiment, and temporality. If consciousness can be transferred to an atemporal substrate, what does this imply about the nature of consciousness itself? Is temporality a necessary condition for consciousness, or merely a contingent feature of biological existence? In unraveling linear time, Warhammer 40k doesn't just present us with curious science fiction concepts. It offers a radical reimagining of temporality that challenges the very foundations of our ontological understanding. It suggests that being itself might be fundamentally atemporal, with time as we understand it being merely a limited perspective on a much more complex reality. The concept of consciousness in Warhammer 40k doesn't merely challenge our understanding, it fundamentally reconstructs it, forcing us to reconsider the very nature of mind and self. Let's begin with the Genestealer cults, entities that embody a radical fracturing of individual consciousness. These hybrid beings exist in a state of cognitive dissonance that goes beyond mere psychological conflict. It's an ontological rupture of the self. The Genestealer cult consciousness presents a direct challenge to the Kantian notion of the transcendental ego. Kant posited a unifying I that synthesizes our experiences into a coherent whole. But in a Genestealer, this I is fundamentally split. Part of their mind belongs to their individual human identity, while another part is irrevocably connected to the alien hive mind. This isn't merely a case of competing desires or beliefs within a single consciousness. Rather, it represents a form of distributed selfhood that defies our traditional understanding of personal identity. The Genestealers don't simply have conflicting thoughts. They have thoughts that originate from fundamentally different sources of consciousness. This fracturing challenges the very notion of free will and autonomous decision-making. When a Genestealer acts, who or what is the prime mover of that action? Is it the remnant of their human consciousness, the influence of the hive mind, or some emergent property arising from the interaction of the two? Unlike the fractured consciousness of Genestealers, the hive mind represents a total subsumption of individual minds into a greater whole. It's as if the universe decided that Facebook's data collection wasn't ambitious enough and opted for a literal all-consuming network. This collective consciousness bears some resemblance to Teilhard de Chardin's concept of the noosphere, a hypothesized sphere of human thought encircling the Earth. However, the hive mind radically extends this idea. It's not just a network of connected minds, but a singular, vast intelligence that spans countless organisms across interstellar distances. The hive mind challenges us to consider, at what point does a collection of individual consciousnesses become a single, unified mind? Is there a threshold of interconnectedness beyond which individual identity ceases to be meaningful? Moreover, the hive mind's constant assimilation of new biomass and information presents a form of cognitive growth unlike anything in our experience. It suggests a mode of learning and adaptation that occurs not through individual experience, but through the literal consumption and integration of other minds. The Orc Gestalt field, presents perhaps the most radical reimagining of consciousness in the 40k universe. Here, we move beyond questions of individual versus collective mind to a phenomenon where collective belief literally shapes reality. This concept resonates with the philosophical idea of social constructivism, however much more rigorously. Social constructivists argue that our understanding of reality is shaped by social consensus. The Gestalt field suggests that reality itself is malleable to collective belief. Consider the implications. If reality can be altered by collective psychic will, what does this mean for our concept of objective truth? The Gestalt field implies a universe where the distinction between epistemology, how we know, and ontology, what exists, breaks down entirely. Furthermore, this phenomenon raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness itself. If collective belief can alter reality, is consciousness merely an emergent property of complex brains? Or is it a fundamental force in the universe, capable of shaping the very fabric of existence? In redefining consciousness, Warhammer 40k compels us to grapple with the possibility that the individual mind, the cornerstone of so much of our philosophy and psychology, may be nothing more than a comforting illusion. In Warhammer's 41st century, consciousness is not confined, not unitary, and certainly not predictable. Venturing deeper into Warhammer 40k's ontological abyss, we encounter a challenge that strikes at the very heart of conventional philosophy, the dissolution of the boundary between mind and matter. Picture the warp, a tempestuous sea of psychic energy. Here, thought and matter intertwine in a dance of creation and destruction. Emotions crystallize into tangible forms, while the laws of physics bow to the whims of consciousness. This realm shatters the Cartesian dualism that has long dominated Western thought. Descartes posited an unbridgeable chasm between thinking substance and extended substance. Yet, in the warp, this distinction crumbles to dust. Consider the manifestation of chaos entities. A bloodthirster embodies rage in its purest form, not merely representing anger, but existing as its physical incarnation. Such beings force us to reconsider our understanding of mental states. In this paradigm, thoughts don't simply correlate with physical reality, they are physical reality. This concept propels us beyond even the most audacious interpretations of panpsychism. We're confronted with a universe where consciousness and matter are revealed as twin aspects of a more fundamental substance, a kind of psychomatter forming the very bedrock of existence. The Adeptus Mechanicus offers us another lens through which to view this fusion of mind and matter. Their technological marvels redefine the boundaries of consciousness itself. The noosphere, their vast data network, transcends our notion of the internet. It serves as a direct extension of the mind into the digital realm, blurring the line between thought and data until it vanishes entirely. Andy Clark's theory of extended cognition provides a starting point for understanding this phenomenon. But the Mechanicus pushes far beyond. In their world, technology doesn't merely augment our cognitive processes, it becomes an integral part of consciousness itself. The Mechanicus' belief in machine spirits hints at a reality where the divide between artificial and organic intelligence loses all meaning. If consciousness emerges from complexity, then the distinction between mind and machine becomes obsolete. Yet, it's the Necrons who present us with perhaps the ultimate synthesis of mind and matter. These ancient beings have transcended their biological origins, transferring their consciousness into bodies of living metal. This transformation forces us to grapple with profound questions about the nature of mind and its relationship to physical form. If consciousness can migrate from neurons to circuitry, what does this reveal about the essence of self? Might consciousness simply be a pattern of information processing, capable of existing in any sufficiently complex system? The Necron's ability to transfer consciousness also challenges our notions of personal identity and continuity. When a Necron inhabits a new body, does it remain the same entity or become something new? This conundrum echoes the ancient puzzle of the ship of Theseus, but applied to the realm of consciousness itself. Moreover, the very concept of living metal blurs the line between animate and inanimate matter. If metal can live and think, our traditional categories of living and non-living, conscious and unconscious, begin to crumble. In transcending materiality, Warhammer 40k doesn't merely offer us fantastical scenarios. It presents a fundamental challenge to our understanding of mind, matter, and the relationship between them. This universe suggests a reality where consciousness isn't simply an emergent property of complex biological systems, but a fundamental aspect of existence itself, capable of manifesting in forms far beyond our limited human experience. In the grim darkness of the far future, the ancient axiom, I think, therefore, I am, takes on new meaning. The question that follows, however, becomes far more complex. What exactly am I? And where do the boundaries of my being truly lie? We find ourselves at the precipice of an ontological revolution, peering into the vast unknown that Warhammer 40k has laid before us. This journey hasn't merely challenged our understanding of existence, it has fundamentally reshaped the landscape of philosophical inquiry. Reflect on what we've encountered: space that defies Euclidean geometry, time that flows like a capricious river, and consciousness that transcends individual minds. We've witnessed the interplay of matter and psyche in ways that would confound even the most imaginative philosopher kings of old. But let us consider a provocative notion. What if Warhammer 40k is more than an elaborate fiction? Could it be a prescient glimpse into the future of philosophy itself? Throughout history, paradigm shifts in philosophy have expanded our ontological horizons. Kant unveiled the noumenal realm. Quantum physics introduced us to superposition. And now, Warhammer 40k presents us with a conceptual framework so radical it renders our previous models obsolete. In this new paradigm, we must reconsider our fundamental assumptions. We are no longer simply beings in the world, but rather becomings of the universe. Consciousness, far from being confined to individual minds, permeates reality itself. The Cartesian theater, once the stage for our understanding of mind and matter, now expands into a multidimensional spectacle that defies comprehension. This isn't merely a new philosophical model. It's an ontological singularity, a point beyond which our previous modes of thought cannot survive intact. After contemplating the Orc Gestalt field, or the Tyranid hive mind, how can we return to our quaint notions of individual consciousness or consensus reality? We stand at a crossroads. Do we retreat to the familiar territory of human-centric philosophies? Or do we dare to venture into the uncharted realms of one human ontology? The choice before us is whether to cling to our cherished concepts of individuality, linear time, and concrete space, or to embrace the flux, the collective, and the infinite potential of unbeing. Warhammer 40k offers us more than a grimdark vision of the future. It presents a philosophical Rubicon. To cross this threshold is to acknowledge that even our most radical current theories may be but tentative first steps towards grasping the true nature of existence. As we conclude this exploration of the ontological warp, consider this: in the evolving landscape of future philosophy, perhaps the only constant is the dissolution of constants themselves. Might this very uncertainty be the key to a deeper understanding? I leave you with a thought from the annals of the Imperium. An open mind is like a fortress with its gates unbarred and unguarded. Perhaps it's time we not only open the gates of our philosophical fortresses, but dare to step beyond them entirely. After all, in the vast expanse of potential knowledge, our current understanding may be but a single atom in an infinite sea of discovery.